All right, so picture this, right? You're a bank manager, big important bank, Dubai. You've got a good thing going.
Sounds stressful.
Maybe, maybe not. But then one day, this, how do I put this? A charismatic guy, a real smooth talker, walks in and says, "Hey, I can double your money. Magic."
Okay, I've seen this movie.
Right, sounds like a recipe for disaster. But that's exactly what happened to this bank manager, Mohammed Ayoub, back in, get this, 1995.
No way, 1995. I thought this black magic stuff was, ancient history.
You'd think, right? But this is the story of Foutanga Babani Sissoko, and let me tell you, the guy was a master, an artist of the con. He made off with millions. Millions.
Go on, millions. Like, for real.
Oh yeah, we're talking serious cash. Vanished. Poof! Like magic.
All right, you got me. I need to hear this. What's the deal with this Sissoko guy?
So that's what we're diving into today. How did this guy with nothing but charm and some, let's say, unconventional methods pull this off? How did he outsmart a bank, capture everyone's attention, and still leave so many questions unanswered? It's wild.
All right, I'm hooked. Take me back to 95. Dubai. What's the scene?
Okay, so we're at the Dubai Islamic Bank, right? Sissoko, he strolls in, all smiles and confidence. From what I gather, the guy was magnetic.
Exuded that it factor, huh?
Oh, absolutely. But he starts with something small. A car loan.
Car loan. Seems kind of mundane for a master magician.
Right, but that's the thing. It was all about building trust. He needed to get his foot in the door before he brought out the smoke and mirrors. He gets the loan, no problem. Everything seems legit. But then he invites Ayoub, the bank manager, to dinner.
Dinner. Getting kind of cozy for a business deal, don't you think?
Exactly. This wasn't just business for Sissoko. This was about getting close, building that personal connection.
Ah, I see. Work the angles. Classic. So what happens at this dinner?
Well, that's where the real magic, or at least the illusion of magic, comes in. Sissoko starts dropping hints about his special abilities, specifically doubling money.
Hold up. Did anyone tell Ayoub that you're not supposed to trust a guy who says he can double your money?
Right. It's like rule number one. But here's where things get interesting. We have to remember the context. Back then, in that part of the world, belief in black magic, it wasn't uncommon.
Even though it's like totally forbidden in Islam, right?
Exactly. Officially condemned, but those beliefs, they lingered. Sissoko, he was a master at tapping into that. He knew what buttons to push. So he's got Ayoub hooked with the promise of easy money, but now he needs to deliver.
Time for a magic show.
Oh, you better believe it. He invites Ayoub to this demonstration, and from the reports I've seen, it was quite the production. Smoke, flickering lights, these strange voices, total sensory overload.
Whoa, they had special effects back then. Like a freaking rave.
Maybe not a rave, but you get the idea. It was all designed to overwhelm his senses, make Ayoub question what he was seeing and hearing.
So it's all about messing with his head, making him vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Exactly. And it worked. By the time it was over, Ayoub was convinced he'd witnessed real magic.
Wow. Just like that, logic goes out the window.
Gone. He'd fallen under Sissoko's spell. And that's when things really took off. Ayoub, totally believing in Sissoko's powers, started sending him money. And not small amounts, we're talking large transfers. Big money.
Okay, this is getting good. But how much are we talking here? Give me the numbers.
We're talking 183 transfers between 95 and 98. Ayoub was hooked.
183 transfers. This Ayoub guy, he really went all in.
Oh, yeah, he was all in on the magic money train. But that's not even the craziest part. Ayoub was also taking care of all of Sissoko's credit card bills, which were, let's just say, not exactly modest.
This Sissoko knew how to live it up, huh? But what I don't get is, how did he get away with it for so long? Someone must have noticed something was fishy.
You'd think so, right. But Sissoko, he was always one step ahead. And his ambition, it didn't stop with Dubai. He had bigger plans, bolder moves.
All right, you got to tell me more. What's next for our magic man?
Well, to see what Sissoko does with his newfound fortune, we're going to have to take a little trip across the globe. Destination: the Big Apple. New York City, baby.
But we'll get into that after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. So last we left our financial Houdini. He was living large, right? Millions flowing in thanks to, well, let's call it creative financing.
Creative is one word for it.
Right. But Sissoko, he wasn't content with just, being a millionaire. He had to dream bigger. And that dream, it took him straight to New York City.
New York. From Dubai to the Big Apple. Talk about upward mobility.
Exactly. This is where things get really interesting. Because in New York, Sissoko, he sets his sights on, get this, infiltrating the American dream.
Right.
He marries a bank teller.
Whoa, hold on, what? Marries a bank teller. Is this part of the con, or is he just like a hopeless romantic?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We don't know for sure if she was in on the scheme, but it definitely couldn't have hurt, right? Talk about access.
Right, talk about a conflict of interest. So what's he doing with all this cash besides, finding a wife? Okay, so remember how I said he dreamed big? Well, Sissoko, he always wanted his own airline.
An airline. We've gone from magic to airlines now. This is getting good.
And not just any airline, we're talking Air Dabia. Named after his hometown in Mali, he's talking about Boeings, the whole 9 yards.
So he's buying planes now with magically doubled money.
Pretty much, but it's more than that, right? It's like he's trying to build an empire, a legacy. He wants to be seen as this self-made tycoon, a legitimate businessman.
Image is everything, right? Especially when you're trying to, let's say, obscure your past a little.
Exactly. And he doesn't skimp on the details. We're talking multiple Boeing 727s, even a used Hawker Siddeley 125. He's going all in.
This guy's got a serious spending problem. Maybe he just has so much money he doesn't know what to do with it all.
And it wasn't just the planes. Luxury cars, parties, he was living like a king. And not just that, he was incredibly generous. Donations, gifts, the works.
Classic power move. Spread the wealth around, make yourself look good. But it's all part of the illusion, isn't it?
Totally. He's creating this persona, this untouchable aura. He wants people to see him as this almost mythical figure, the man who can make anything happen.
And let's be honest, it's working, right? He's got everyone fooled.
For a while. But even the best illusions, they can't last forever. And for Sissoko, that illusion, it started to crumble with a rather interesting purchase. Helicopters.
Helicopters. Okay, what kind of helicopters are we talking about here?
Not your average weekend choppers. We're talking Vietnam War era Huey helicopters.
Yeah.
Military grade stuff.
Oh, red flag. Military helicopters. That's not exactly keeping a low profile.
Nope, not at all. And you know what they say, pride comes before the fall. This was a purchase too far. So those helicopters, not exactly subtle, right? What happened? Did he try to fly them to Mali?
You know, it's funny you should say that. Turns out, getting those choppers out of the country, that was a plan.
Okay, but these are military birds. You can't just throw them in checked baggage.
Exactly. Too many eyes, too many rules. And Sissoko's people, they got a little, shall we say, overconfident. Tried to grease the wheels, offered a bribe. Big mistake.
Oh boy, that's never a good sign. So that's how the whole thing blew up.
Bribes tend to attract the wrong kind of attention. Next thing you know, Interpol's knocking on the door. They'd been watching Sissoko, and this helicopter thing, it was the final straw.
And they caught him.
Nabbed him in Geneva, trying to open another bank account. The guy never stopped moving.
Always working an angle, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. Game over.
Not quite. Turns out, even behind bars, Sissoko, he knew how to live. While he was fighting extradition back to the U.S., he was living it up in that Swiss prison. Gourmet meals from Paris for him and the guards. The stories are legendary.
What? Talk about making friends and influencing people, even in prison. But while he's enjoying his 5-star detention, what's happening back in Dubai?
Well, the jig was up. Remember all those bank transfers? Auditors finally caught on, and Ayoub, he cracked under pressure, confessed to the whole thing.
Ooh, can you imagine? The magic bubble bursts.
No more illusions. Ayoub, he ended up doing 3 years for fraud.
3 years. That's rough. But what about Sissoko, the mastermind? Surely he faced some serious time.
That's where things get interesting again. See, when Sissoko got extradited back to the States, he had a whole team of high-powered people vouching for him. Politicians, diplomats, even a former U.S. senator.
Hold on, seriously. For the guy who pulled off this massive black magic bank heist, what was their angle?
It's the million-dollar question. Some speculated they bought into his whole Robin Hood image. You know, stealing from the rich, giving back to the people. Others thought there was more to it, some behind-the-scenes pressure, shady dealings.
Sounds like a conspiracy thriller. So what happened? What did Sissoko get?
Well, he ended up pleading guilty. Ignored his lawyer's advice, just came right out and admitted it.
Why do that? Seems counterintuitive.
Some said he figured it'd raise fewer questions, you know, keep those powerful friends happy. Whatever the reason, it worked in his favor. Got a slap on the wrist, really. 43 days.
43 days. For all that, that's unbelievable.
You know what they say? Justice is blind. Or maybe money talks.
I guess so. But he couldn't exactly go back to his old tricks after all that, could he?
Oh, Sissoko. He always landed on his feet. He went back to Mali. Remember those Interpol warrants? Turns out they couldn't touch him there. No extradition treaty. Back home, he was a hero, a folk legend. even serve in their parliament for a while.
Wow, from prison to parliament. What a wild ride.
This whole story, it really makes you think about the power of belief, the allure of wealth, and how easily even the smartest people can be deceived.
It's a good reminder to be careful who you trust, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes, the most incredible stories, the ones that seem too wild to be true, well, they often are. That's all the time we have for today. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't think we've heard the last of Foutanga Babani Sissoko.